So no 3D printed guns next time.
No, we're not going to do that.
How stupid are gun buybacks? Ha! New York State had to give a West Virginia man $21,000 to learn that lesson. We'll talk about that in a minute, but first, we have a gun giveaway going on. It's happening right now. It is absolutely free. All you got to do is click the link in the description down below to learn which brand new gun you could win. And it ends really soon, so do that now. Yes, sirree, they have changed the rules for gun buybacks in New York State because a wily West Virginia fella drove himself up to Utica, New York for a gun buyback with a whole bunch of 3D printed gun parts. Not even receiver parts or anything like that, just auto sears and different things like that that he could never put into his own guns. And he sold them at a gun buyback and got $21,000 because they had to give him bonus money because they were ghost guns with no serial numbers and gun parts and things like that. So here's what the fella did. He heard about the gun buyback going on, got himself a 3D printer, printed up a bunch of parts, which could be used to turn semi-automatic firearms into fully automatic firearms if you did a lot more milling and other work inside the receiver, carried them up to the gun buyback, and got his $21,000 worth of gift cards from the good folks in Utica. And the New York Attorney General found out what was happening. She actually sponsored this gun buyback in Utica and was there when this guy came in, and I don't know if he demanded, but I'm certain I would have demanded my money if I'd have thought of this. But what a great way to show that gun buybacks don't work. They waste taxpayer money. They waste police officers' time because the cops show up there at the gun buyback to take the guns back and get them off the street. And again, this guy just walked in and said, here are the gun parts that you think are causing all the crime in America. Give me my $21,000 and I will go on my way. This is not how we stop crime. This is not the best, highest, and best use of our taxpayer money to stop crime. Gun buybacks, real criminals are not going to go to gun buyback and turn in their gun and get a $50 gift card for Walmart. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So if you hear about a gun buyback program going on and your state doesn't have mandatory background checks for private sales, you could show up at the gun buyback and offer people cash for them to sell you their guns, and you could walk away with a bunch of guns. Probably crappy, old, rusty guns that are never going to be used in crime anyway. So you might want to be careful about that. But think about this. Think about the logic behind, the leap of logic behind operating a gun buyback, where you think that drug dealers and murderers and armed robbers are going to show up at a place where there's lots of police with a gun and say, give me my $50 for Walmart or whatever they're using their gift cards for. Give me my gift card and I will then give you this gun. If you think that's going to reduce crime, you really have no idea how criminals operate and what they do and how they do it. Because what that does is, yes, it takes guns off the street because, if there's a gun laying around in grandma's house and grandma passes away, that gun's going to end up in the hands of a criminal. None of it makes any sense to me when I look at it from the outside. Spend that money, spend that $21,000 on overtime for police officers to do more patrols. Think about that. How much would that help rather than giving this guy a bunch of gift cards because he was smart enough to use his 3D printer to come up and game your system? So since then, state of New York has changed their rules on the gun buyback so they won't allow people to do this anymore. But the Associated Press got hold of this guy and he refused to give his real name. He just used a pseudonym, which I think is smart of him. He refused to give his real name, but he pointed out that he didn't do this just to make a bunch of money. That was just a bonus. He did this to show how absolutely stupid the gun buyback programs were. And he's right. These things are not working. They're not reducing crimes. In places where they're having gun buybacks, there is no appreciable reduction in crime at all. They can't measure it. It just makes people feel good. Yep, we got a hold of some of these guns. Well, you know what? A rusty old Hopkins and Allen revolver that was never going to be used in a crime anyway. You're paying people in gift cards for that gun. You're not helping anything. You're just being phony and doing something that might make people feel good because you want to get on the news. That's what politicians are doing when they're sponsoring gun buybacks, when they're involved in stuff like this. And we have to prove to them that this is not how we want our taxpayer money spent. And if we do that by taking their $21,000 and teaching them a $21,000 lesson, great, more power to this guy. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad it taught them a lesson. And anytime a gun buyback happens, you should be there telling people that it's a fruitless waste of money and will not reduce crime. And so if we're doing the math, and a commenter brought this to our attention, if we're doing the math, we've got 400 million guns, roughly, give or take, in America right now, and they're producing about 7 million new guns each year. So assuming that we stopped making all guns right now today, if we bought back one gun every minute, it would take 761 years to buy back all the guns in America. So think about how poorly this would work as a means to reduce firearms. This is not the way it's going to work. This is not how we are going to solve the problem of crime. How we are going to solve the problem of crime is to make sure that criminals are afraid of law-abiding citizens, that criminals worry more about someone fighting back than they do about the results of the legal system or something like that, because criminals know they're probably not going to get caught. A lot of them are just happy to take a felony case because it's a badge of honor for them. They don't really care. It's part of doing business. They go to jail, they get out, they commit more crimes. That's what they do. So in order to stop crime, we have to make sure that criminals fear law-abiding citizens because they don't fear anything else. They have to look at us and wonder, I wonder if that person's carrying a gun. I wonder if they're going to fight back. You know what? I'm going to go look for somebody else. That's how we reduce crime. Want to know the 3 biggest mistakes when carrying a handgun? Then click on the video next to me to reveal all 3 mistakes. Mistake number 2 may shock you. Everybody has their own cardinal rules for what they're going to do when they're carrying a gun. But right now, I'm going to give you 3 things that you must never do